Welcome to Freddy's Huge Ask Podcast. Huge lives and the stories behind them. And now here's your host, Freddy Cruz.
Kristina Rienzi is a thriller author, certified professional coach, and former president of Sisters in Crime Central Jersey. Her new book, 5 Happy Choices, The Simple Way to a Happier Life, is an Amazon #1 new release and bestseller. And Kristina joins the pod right now.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Well, thank you for joining the show. I am a fan of origin stories, so I got to know what yours is because you've got your hands in so many different cookie jars with nonfiction, fiction. You got the Sisters in Crime deal that you were doing. You have a psychology degree. So what led you down the path to becoming the 2022 version of Kristina?
That is such a great question and so funny because I'm always asking myself that as I'm changing, right? We're always changing and growing. But I've always loved to write. Writing has always been a passion of mine. It's something that I've just been drawn to. And I've always loved writing dark stories. When it comes to fiction, I love the dark stuff, the stuff that dives into the human psyche and behavior, which is also connected, right, to my degree in psychology and all of my work there. And it's just, I love just figuring out why people do the things they do and what makes people tick, and just trying to understand the human condition as we go through life. And it has led me to do both fiction and nonfiction.
Yeah, well, and having a psychology degree at face value would be like, oh, well, Christina's a psychiatrist or a psychologist, or she's working with criminal, like in the criminal minds unit, like we see on TV. But you've got this really cool niche career that you've made out of this degree. So how hard or easy was it to be able to apply this knowledge fresh out of school to doing what you do?
Yeah, it's pretty easy for me only because it's my default. I love this stuff. I've always been in the helping profession. It's always been something that I've been drawn to. So going to school for psychology and then an advanced degree in psychology was just a natural progression for me. I did take a little detour and went into, a behavior in the workplace. I did some employment work, but basically went right back to it and got on the coaching train. So really the difference between psychology practice and coaching's more positive psychology, is that psychology deals with dysfunction to function, taking someone from trauma to healing, right? Coaching and or positive psychology, which is where I am today, takes you from where you're performing functionally to optimal performance. So it's really like linear. You're moving along, this kind of line in life where you're moving through some issues you may have had and moving you forward to getting to the place you want to be. I think as a human, I'm always trying to do better and to help others. And so this was just natural for me. But absolutely psychology, my background in psychology, coaching and pre-positive psychology training was all about psychopathology and abnormal psychology. I worked in the field of abnormal psychology. I worked with people who had chronic mental illness, and a lot of that and, understanding the human condition helped me write my thrillers. Absolutely. And it also helps me have empathy and compassion for people when I'm trying to get them to the next, place they're going today.
Kind of going in multiple directions here, but you've got 9 works of fiction in different genres. So what would you say would be your favorite to write? And then what have you not written yet that would be on your to write list?
I love it. I have such a to-write list, right? I love my thrillers. All my books are thrillers. My favorite book that I wrote, although I love all my books, was my last one, Among Us. That was so much fun to write. So exciting. It's a government conspiracy thriller. It dabbles in sci-fi. And I love sci-fi. I love conspiracy theories. I love mysteries. And so, yes, writing that was so exciting because I actually did a lot of research on the Freedom of Information Act, a lot of research on just government conspiracies around secrets, classified documents in the military when it comes to extraterrestrials and things like that. So I took all of that information, I kind of fictionized it. Again, not quite sure what's true and what's not in terms of what you read out there. But I definitely took everything and said, what if this were all real and true? And how would that look? And how would an English professor who is a conservative by day and kind of, delving into the darker side of things at night, how would she approach having a government document drop in her lap that reveals this secret? what would she do? And then you have a government agency after her. So that was all exciting and fun and fast paced. I love fast paced. I love twists and turns.
Yeah.
My characters in that book, I loved developing them. They were fun. They were deep. They were real. They felt real to me. And yeah, so that was so exciting. And I love that. And so what have I not done yet? I've dabbled in domestic thrillers a little bit. I have Winter Road. I have Luring Shadows. I'd like to do a little bit more of that. I'd like to get into psychological thrillers. Actually, I'd like to use my psychology degree to really dive into my fiction, and just kind of maybe focus on that a little bit more when I go back to my fiction. Right now, I'm doing a little bit of nonfiction, but fiction's always there and will always be there for me. So yeah, I'd like to use that psychology and dive into the psychological thriller a little bit more.
Yeah, and going back to the alien thriller, the sci-fi thriller that you wrote. I mean, what an interesting time it must have been to be alive in the middle of the 20th century around World War II, when all the nations were redrawing all their boundaries, and then you've got the Cold War, and there's this book. It's called Area 51 by Annie Jacobson. And this just turned me on to the whole thing of it. And I was always kind of on the fence about it. But look, you talk about aliens, you're opening up a whole can of worms, sister.
Sure. Totally.
It just got me fascinated. Now I'm like, I'm no longer on the fence. This stuff is real. What are they not telling us? And when do we find out? Is it going to be like in the movies where, oh my God, there's an alien ship coming out of the Pacific Ocean?
Yep, right.
Yeah. What was something that you learned in your research while looking through the Freedom of Information Act that you're like, whoa, are you kidding me? How is this not getting reported in the national news?
So what scared me, I'll tell you what's, because I write things that scare me so I can overcome my fears. And so what scared me the most about this was that, this is fun. This was fun for me. And again, I don't know what's real or not real, but I think that the most awesome thing about being a human is that we don't know everything. And isn't it fun to dream and wonder, right? So the thing that scared me the most, and I think that really got me going, oh, I don't want to get too far into this in real life. Let's just write about it in fiction, was all of the people who were just found dead, disappeared, never to be heard from again, that really spoke out against the government back throughout history. All of the people who said something wild that nobody wanted to either get out or believe. And maybe for sure they made it up. I don't know. But what I do know is that something bad happened to them after they did that. And that always struck me as, terrifying, because I thought, whether it's real or not, if you're going missing or you're disappearing or you're found dead, and, it looks like a suicide or whatever the case may be, whatever happened to you was directly and right after you spoke out about something. What are we trying to hide here? Why? And you know what? I do look at things from two point of views. I'm not a one-sided person. So when I wrote this book, I really tried to look at it from the government's point of view and my character. And I thought, okay, what's so dangerous? Let me give them the benefit of the doubt. What's so dangerous to our security, to our safety globally, but somebody releases this information, it puts everybody at risk. So did these people go missing, disappear, unexpectedly pass away? Was it done with malicious intent because of ego or, secrecy? Was it an accident truly? And it's all just conjecture. And we're looking at this going, it looks weird, but it just so happened. Or was it a protection? Was it somebody saying for the greater good? That kind of stuff scared me, because I thought these are real lives that are gone because they spoke out, and they seem to be people. They seem to be people with real information, people who had access to Area 51, people who had been to Dolce Base, people who had experienced things and then came out into the media and said, here's what I learned. And I thought it was interesting that instead of just saying, oh, this person's, doesn't know what they're talking about and blowing it off and moving on with their lives, something happened to these people. That scared me. And it just made me think like, wow, this is real stuff. And I don't know what we're trying to hide here, or maybe what we're trying to protect. Maybe we're protecting people. I don't know. I'm not behind those walls. I'd love to be a fly on the wall. So I can't, I really don't think people have bad intentions from the get-go. I just think things can spin out of control, but I wonder, and that made me scared. And so I thought, if that was scary, I could take that energy and put it into a fiction story.
Yeah, well, and everything you're saying reminds me of Bob Lazar. He's
Right.
like the main guy who like
Mhm.
he saw the gray alien, walking
Yeah.
down the hallway, and
Right.
then look at what happened to him. I mean, he's ridiculed. Oh, look at him with a tinfoil hat, It's just
Right.
crazy.
It's right. And I think there was a time, and you mentioned there was a time when talking about this stuff was normal, right? Like the newspapers put stuff out, people
Yeah.
talked about it. Something changed. And that's kind of what my book goes into. It's like something changed.
Mhm.
What changed? I made it into this fiction story about this, like, there's like a conspiracy, a government, conspiracy around it, which I don't want to give away, but basically like something happened that made them say, no more, we're not going to talk about this anymore. And there was a
Right.
reason for it. But yeah, I wonder, like, it was fine. It was fine. We were talking about it. It was like a fact of life, whatever was going on, even if it was unknown, they're unidentified flying objects doesn't mean it's aliens. It's just unidentified. To now, it's such like now it's, socially unacceptable to discuss. And I think we are all human and we think outside the box, we think outside the world, and we're like wondering. I mean, there's scientists out there in spaceships going to different planets. Like we're trying to explore. That's what it's about. We want to explore, we want to understand our humanity. We want to understand life. And we don't have all the answers. And science can't give us all the answers, as we all
Right.
know.
Well, and it's hubris on our part to believe that we're the only ones out here. I mean, we say universe, but I go back to
It could,
this quote, and I'm paraphrasing Naval Ravikant, where he talks about, we're we're monkeys on a spinning rock in an infinite universe, which, as far as we know, may be a part of an infinite multiverse. And how can we possibly understand or even know what is out there? And and it also reminds me of Star Wars when they're talking about a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but
Mhm.
it's all outer space.
Yes, for sure. And I think there's some like as humans, we want to know everything and control everything and feel
Yes.
safe. Okay, I know, one plus one is two. That makes
Yeah.
me feel good. That's a finite, right? When it's infinite, when it's not known, it is scary. On the unknown can be scary. It can be exciting, but it can also be scary and it can make people fearful. And yeah, when I sit and think about it too much, I'm afraid too. But I think at the end of the day, opening your mind to the possibility and saying, like, I don't know everything. And how awesome is that? Like, it could be anything could be possible. It's such a creative, way of looking at the world that really does make your everyday exciting when anything's possible. That's what I believe. I believe anything is possible. I don't say no to anything. What do I know? I know what I know. We're also limited by our brain, right? We have a human brain that whatever our brain can compute is what we can understand. And I think there's more to that than just our brain in this universe. And there are things out there we're never going to understand. And that's okay. I think that's okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's actually liberating to a
Yeah,
sense. It
for
doesn't make
sure.
you, it doesn't make you, it doesn't make you not ambitious. You're just admitting the truth. I mean, you can say, oh, I love lettuce, and here are all these different kinds. Oh, but Christina, don't you know they're actually more than just this kind? Okay, yeah, so and okay, cool.
Mhm.
It's
That's
like,
fun. Yeah.
yeah.
We don't
um
have to know it all, right? It is very
right.
liberating. Like, I don't need to know it all. I just need, that's the fun of it. It would be
Yeah.
boring if we knew everything and that was it. It would be
Yeah,
boring.
it'd be exhausting. And well, I
Yeah.
mean, you spend all your life learning, and there's nothing wrong with learning. I'm just saying that at some point, you got to take care of your body physically so that you're
Mhm.
able to nourish your mind and your mind mentally, and learn and do all the things that make you thrive as a human being, and enjoying your company with the family and with your friends. But
Definitely.
something I want to go back to is how you integrate dark themes into your works of fiction. And I promise I do want to get back in. I want to go back to your nonfiction, but
Sure.
this also excites me too. Is that you work with these dark themes as a way of kind of just channeling and working through things yourself, so that maybe it's kind of like a form of I don't know, therapy.
It's cathartic.
Yeah, cathartic.
It's
There you go.
absolutely cathartic. I think the most difficult time in my life, I wrote the most dark fiction, and it was most, of and fastest because it was easier for me to deal with these things in books. Now, granted, I wasn't my books are fiction. I wasn't dealing with murders and, paranormal. What I was dealing with were real emotions, real
Yeah.
dark emotions, of grief. I lost my mom and we were very close and it was quick, and I'm an only child, and that affected me in many ways, good and bad. It made me actually a better person, believe it or not. But in the beginning, it wasn't easy. It was very hard. And so for me to write through that, I channeled my anger. There's a lot of anger and grief. I did not know that. Nobody told me that. I knew grief was sad. I didn't know there was rage in grief. And so my rage, my sadness, all those emotions that are real and deserve to be dealt with, I dealt with them through writing dark fiction, and it really helped me. And of course, at the end, as an author, there's a final product. There's a book, and then you feel good about that, and you've gotten all of that out of your system. And whatever way works for you, everybody's different. I do it through writing. I process life by living it, for sure, but also I'm introspective, and I am an introvert by nature. And so I do process things intrinsically, and I am analytical, again, very analytical person. So I do that with writing. It helps me. It really helps me. So that was how I dealt with it. And honestly, my psychology background, like it's always been intriguing to me, what makes somebody do something
Mhm.
one way or the other. Like, what would drive a normally, like, a person, you think that the girl next door, what would drive, what would make her, what would motivate her to do something she would never do, that's going to put her in danger, her life in danger, or someone she loves in danger, or even maybe do something she never expected she would do that was not considered good, on the good versus bad list. But yeah, I've always been intrigued by that. And I think all of us have darkness within us. We all have, sides of ourselves that are light and darkness. And I think we have to honor that and embrace that and, respect that. It's not to, ignore and say, I'm perfect, this bundle of light and joy. No, we're human, and it's okay to have these things going on. So it's just a matter of what do you do with it? And my characters don't do the right thing all the time with that. And so, yeah, it's processing that, processing your fears, and it is absolutely cathartic. And I hope that people who are reading it process those fears as well, and they're able to relate them to their life and overcome and triumph through difficulties they're having.
Absolutely. I got to ask you, have you ever, and I only say this because as a fellow author, I like to dance with that shadow as well. And about a week and a half ago, and without getting too much into weeds of what I'm doing, my latest manuscript is first person perspective, but alternating characters. So it's told through two different characters. And toward the end, it got really intense and very dark, and I had to get outside and walk my dog. So have you ever danced so much with the shadow during a writing sesh that you're like, all right, Christina, walk
Mhm.
away, walk
Yeah.
away? Or do you just keep
Yeah.
going? Are you like, nope, just foot on the gas, 100 miles per hour?
I do. I had one experience. Well, there's a lot of times where I write something and then I'm like, I gotta get out of the way because it was dark. And I scare myself sometimes, which I guess is good. It can scare people too that are reading it, right? But I don't like, I am my mindset right now is on a different train. So I'm kind of like, I'm riding that train right now and going there. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I think when I was writing Among Us and I was doing research and I was like finding things out, and then of course the internet isn't, anybody can Google police, right? There's people out there seeing what you're Googling. So
Yeah.
I'm Googling all this stuff and I'm getting information. And I just was home alone and it was like a quiet day and I was in my
Oh,
office and typing, and the doorbell rang. And I was like, I look at the little camera and there's nobody there, but the doorbell clearly rang. And I'm
hmm.
like, So I went downstairs and there's no one there. Anyway, it was probably a fluke. But at the time, I'm like, okay, this is too close for comfort. I'm writing about this kind of happening in my book and it's happening. So I do often wonder, because all about, energy, and I believe in, that our energy has power and is real. I wonder if, like, the energy I was putting into the story, it was just being reflected back to me in some way in the universe. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't want anybody looking into my files. Like, and I said out loud, I think at that point, like, I'm just fiction. It's just a story. Like, I'm not really going to like do anything with this. This is fun. This is fiction, because I was like, oh my God, is someone bugging my room? Like, I don't know. You just start to think like, what am I doing? This is a fiction book, but I'm touching upon topics that are super sensitive and people
Yeah.
have like lost their lives over, you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, I
Right.
better, but yeah, it's just fiction. And I know, and I, you know, that's just how I went about it. But yeah, for sure. There are times where I actually was in such a dark place and writing all this dark stuff. I had to stop because I thought, I don't want that to be how I show up in life and how I'm walking around, you know, like that's not who I am. I'm both, you know, of these things. I'm intrigued by it, but I don't want to be putting that out there. So I did have to at some point take a step back. I changed things a little, and yeah, it's your mindset where you're at, and I didn't want to, you know, go down the rabbit hole, not come out,
Yeah. Well,
you
and
know.
that's the biggest misconception that people will often have about authors who write stuff like this, and authors who write, horror. First name that comes to mind, Stephen King.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, wow, you're writing about all these really grisly concepts, but you're the nicest person. Oh my God,
Right.
Christina took a selfie with me at a book signing.
Right. Right. It is. It's crazy. And but you know what? It again, it's just it's art,
Yeah.
and it is creative. And I will say this, I think one of the first writing classes I took outside of college and everything, when I was like, I'm going to write a novel, I went to I took a screenwriting class. And anyway, one of the things I learned was being a writer is being part method actor. You know, you really have to get into, and it is hard to get into the dark people. But again, we all have darkness. It's how we channel it. I'm not channeling it through the things my characters do. That's for sure. But I'm channeling it in whatever way I can. And yeah, you can be a kind, loving, you know, positive human and write dark things because you are processing them. And sometimes I think my ability to write that stuff allows me to be who I am in real life because I'm not carrying it with me. I'm getting it out. And I'm getting it out safely and very, you know, cathartically versus taking it out maybe in an argument or, you know, not to say I don't argue, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not weighing on me. I'm letting it out in a very creative and authentic way.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things too that I feel maybe has just gotten lost. I don't know if it's a product of 21st century technology and having, if you're listening, I'm holding up a smartphone
Mhm.
that, oh my gosh, we're all correct and we're all good people and we're all kind and none of us do anything wrong. And oh my gosh, you disagree with me, you miserable human being. And it's not understanding that, well, we're all humans and we are all capable of doing so many things. And if you really want to go back into it, you look back, you zoom out like 200,000 years and you realize that communist Russia and Nazi Germany were just 5 minutes ago. And we all have the same brain. We all have our different experience that make us, our different experiences that make us who we are, but we have the same unit, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and we've got to get my big thing is like, all right, you know, you see all this stuff out there, positive this and positive that. And don't get me wrong, a lot of things I share are positive, but they're
Yeah.
also about being human and
Mhm.
understanding that toxic positivity helps nobody. You know, if a friend comes to you and says, I'm having a problem, and you're like, yeah, well, at least you have your health. That's toxic positivity. You're trying to be helpful, but you're not. What we need is empathy and compassion. Okay. There's a time for the positive, and it's
Mhm.
absolutely, I'm all about being happy and getting you there, but I'm also about recognizing that there are negative things going on in us and negative emotions and negative thoughts, things in our life that aren't great, and we have to process those and we have to honor those, and it's not okay to ignore them and or not allow somebody to have their moment of anger or sadness. This is who we are. When you suppress all that stuff and you just toss out positivity and happiness all the time, like that isn't real, and something's got to give. You know, we're not perfect. We're imperfect, and and perfect at the same time being imperfect. Like it's okay to have all of this stuff. And I think that that's part of the media out there too. It's telling you like you're not allowed to be sad, you're not allowed to be angry, you got to be happy, you got to look perfect, everything's got to be great. No, do I share all the negative stuff in my life on social media? No, because I don't want to bring people down, but that doesn't mean there isn't negative stuff. We're real, we're human. We have it, and I honor it. If I'm having a bad day, I have the bad day and I honor it. It's okay. I'm not going to just pretend, I can choose to, turn that around. There are things I can do, actions I can take. Like I have my book, Five Happy Choices. I talk about that. Like what choices can you make? But that doesn't mean like you're not going to feel the negative stuff. Um, It's what you do about it. But you're absolutely right. We have to honor each other and no, not everybody thinks the way we do. Not everybody feels the way we do. We're all different. And isn't that awesome? I don't want a million of me's. I don't want
Yeah.
them.
That
I
would be
want
boring.
somebody out on board with myself. Like, I want to know, like, what do you think? How do you feel? And you know what? I will tell you 9 times out of 10, I'm learning something from somebody and going, oh, I didn't know that. That's kind of cool. And you know what? Even if I disagree with you, I respect you. I
Yeah.
respect you for what your thoughts are. And I don't have to, choose to have you in my life, but I respect you and go like, that's cool that you think that. That's, you do you. It's your journey, not mine, you know? So there's a lot to be said about that for sure.
Yeah. Well, and all of this leads to your new nonfiction book, Five Happy Choices, The Simple Way to a Happier Life. So let's go ahead and dive into that.
Sure. So when the pandemic hit, I was in a dark place, like a lot of people going, what is happening? Right. And I decided I'm a learner bee. I was like, let me just learn a little bit more about well-being and get my head in the right place. So I thought for my own benefit, I went and took a year-long certificate course in happiness studies, which is really well-being and positive psychology. I took a couple of other classes in the science of well-being, and I learned a lot of stuff. And the main things I learned were that there is science behind happiness. There are things you can actually do to feel good. And they're not, some things are what you would already know. You've heard on the internet, get enough sleep, do the exercise thing, all of that. But there are literal behaviors that you can take on to feel good. And I thought, wouldn't it be awesome if I could take a couple of these things, I chose 5, that resonated with me, that are backed by science, and I can share them with people and give them simple ways to feel good, to feel happier. And it's a practice over time that this happens. And I did it myself. I used, the last year or two to really, really work on feeling good more of the time. Again, that doesn't mean I wasn't sad, angry, fighting with people, just, what all this, I was a human, I was normal, but I didn't let myself root there. So 5 happy choices is really, it's backed by science. It's scientifically proven action steps you can take to feel good in the moment, and then use those on a regular basis to feel happier overall.
Over the past couple of years, I've become a firm believer in not just aliens, but in the law of attraction, which is something that you talk about as well. How has it worked for you and for non-believers? Because you're talking to a believer here, but for non-believers who haven't tapped into it yet, how can they channel it and
Sure.
use it to their advantage?
Great question. It's so funny. I didn't know what the law of attraction was and or the secret or any of that stuff until much later in life, but I had been doing it my whole life. I didn't even know. I didn't
Yeah.
even know. I always expected the end result. Expected it. Okay, I'm going for my master's in psychology. The day I signed up, what did I do? I'm signing my name, MA. I'm signing it. Christina, at the time was my maiden name, MA. I always expected the result I wanted. It's coming. It's happening. Like that's part of it, is believing the end result is yours already. It's here today. And I, again, was doing this my whole life and I didn't even know I was doing it. I think the difference between like just the generic, and if you listen, I don't know if you guys, any of your listeners follow some of the new thought leaders out there, like Gabby Bernstein and Mel Robbins and Jay Shetty, but they all kind of talk about the same thing, in that they're manifesting something out of the law of attraction isn't just about saying, I want a new car and therefore it's going to appear in front of me. Like it doesn't like work like that. What it is about is channeling your energy to what you want and having it be something that you believe is already yours. One, you're believing it's already yours. And it could be a physical thing, or it could be a non-tangible thing. And taking the steps to get there. So it's not just like, I'm going to write this book and all of a sudden 5 happy choices is published on my, oh my God, there it is. No, it's 5 happy choices is in the world. The end is written. It's sold. It's a bestseller. It happened, but it didn't happen yet. I didn't type a word. So every time I sit down, I'm channeling that. I'm imagining that. I actually do, when I can, get my book covers done in advance, and I look at them. They're done. The book is done. I'm looking at the book. It's not, a word hasn't been written. The book is already done. It's out in the world. Isn't that awesome? And then I'm writing it, and it's about inspired action. You have to take the steps to get there, but all the while it already belongs to you, whatever that is. So I think that's how, really, when it comes to law of attraction, it's as simple as the energy, the thoughts, the things you put out into the universe become yours. And it isn't as much, and I read this too, and I think this is true. It isn't as much about what you're attracting what you want as you're attracting what you are. So whatever you are, like if I say I am a best-selling author, I am that. I'm already it. That's who I am.
Mhm.
That's what is going out there. It's not just I want to be. I want to be doesn't have as much power as I am. So, I am happy. I am grateful. I am successful in whatever way that is. It's taking that and owning it and becoming part of you. And then you're going to actually take action steps. It's inspired action and action steps to get to your goal. But that goal, it comes to you easy. It's already yours. That's one of the things I think with law of attraction too. I have this saying, it's on my desk and it says, slow down and everything you are chasing will come around and catch you. I don't worry so much anymore. I don't stress about, is my book going to do this or that? I go, it's going to do what it's going to do. It's coming for me. I'm not going for it. It's coming for me. What you're attracting, it's like a magnet. It's coming for you. So there's less like stress and forcing and hustling and making it happen as there is doing what you do with the understanding it belongs to you already, whatever it is you want. And it comes for you. It's coming for you. You have to believe that. And I'll give you the perfect example. There was this awesome thing that happened and it was writing related. And I literally one day, I just got a feeling like something good's going to happen. But I had this really good feeling. I went to bed at night and I said, you know what? I'm going to try something with the law of attraction here. So I went to bed and I thought, what if something awesome happened to me and I didn't have to do anything for it? What if I didn't have to work for it? What if it just fell in my lap? Like, I'm going to go to bed tonight. I literally was imagining this awesome thing, whatever it was. I didn't know. It's going to fall in my lap. And one of my books is going to do really well. And I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to sleep. It's all taken care of. Okay. I woke up, I went to work, I'm sitting at my desk and my phone rings. I'm not kidding you. My phone rings. And I'm like, hello, it's my author assistant. She says, I have great news. I am connected with the head of marketing at Audible, and they want to turn your book into an audiobook, and they're going to promote it. They're going to have a video. You're going to go to Newark, New Jersey to Audible Celebrity Studios and do a video. You're going to teach people, blah, 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 and they're going to find your narrator for you. I'm like, what? And I literally was like, what are you talking about? And I remembered, and I'm like, and I'm wondering. And of course you have to believe, like, something about my openness allowed that to happen. But it was the coolest thing ever with law of attraction. And from that point forward, I thought, well, if I really put my head into it, I can do anything. We all can.
That's great. Wow.
It was so cool. It was like, what? How'd this happen?
I'm going to dream about that tonight with my books.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So quick rapid fire here. What is your favorite true crime series?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. You know what? I loved Anne Rule. I loved all of her stuff because she wrote about Ted Bundy. She wrote about all of these different crimes. And I love watching all the true crime stuff on TV. But yeah, Anne Rule was my absolute favorite.
I'm in Texas. You are in New Jersey. What Jersey myth do you want to debunk for us Texans?
Oh my gosh. So it's not like polluted everywhere. Okay. I live a mile or two from the beach and it's absolutely beautiful here. It is. And it isn't I live at the Jersey Shore. It's not the Jersey Shore from TV either. They're beautiful beaches. They're clean. They're well taken care of. And it is the Garden State for a reason. There's a lot of horse farms by me. So yeah, New Jersey isn't Sopranos, Jersey Shore, and all this pollution. It has beautiful places.
It's not Newark.
It is not Newark at all. Not where I live. I live at the Jersey Shore. So it's absolutely beautiful here.
Who is the most underrated psychologist?
Oh my gosh. So Martin Seligman, he was the founder of positive psychology, 1989, I think it was. And I think he needs more props there because positive psychology is huge and it's where, the world is going. So.
Advice for anybody wanting to pursue a degree or career after they get their degree in psychology?
Yeah. So, well, get your degree in psychology, definitely go on for your master's degree. Whether you choose to go on to get licensed or get your PhD is up to you, but get out there and work with people, really work with people one-on-one as much as you can. Do internships, volunteer, do whatever you can do. Because I think when you get in front of a human and you get to have that experience with them, there is a lot, you grow as a human being, you learn empathy, you learn compassion, you learn understanding, and then you can help break the stigma of mental illness.
If you could add a sixth happy choice, what would it be?
Oh my God, that's a great question. Oh my God, you have me stumped. So a sixth happy choice, I would probably add to trust yourself. Part of the happy choices is authenticity, but I think in authenticity we're showing up as who we are. But I think a sixth happy choice would be to trust your gut, trust your intuition. Intuition is very strong. It knows more than your brain knows, and I think a lot of times we let it go. So trust your gut, trust your intuition. That's the best way to follow your heart and your life, and put you on the right path.
This is all great stuff, Christina. You can check her out at Christina with a K. So Kristina Rienzi.com. Rienzi is Rienzi. The new book, 5 Happy Choices, The Simple Way to a Happier Life. She's got box sets of her fiction work. Y'all check her out on the socials as well. Thank you so much for coming by this little podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun. We could talk for hours.
This is a presidential alert. The First Amendment of the Constitution has been repealed. Repeat, the First Amendment has been repealed. More details to follow.
First daughter, Elizabeth, watches her presidential parents fall to a brutal assassination.
Breaking news. The president and first lady have been killed in a terror attack.
Retired Navy SEAL Hayder Randall would do anything to defend his country. He's shocked as his ex-girlfriend and the current first daughter stage a coup and take over the United States. As chaos and martial law reign, Randall watches in horror as Elizabeth repeals the First Amendment and begins a campaign of televised public executions. Can the ex-SEAL and his rebels take down an unhinged dictator before America falls? Freddy Cruz, When America Fell Silent, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and thefreddycruz.com.